real quick, if you haven't heard about the FX Summit 2023 conference in Miami, make sure you guys grab your tickets, fxsummit2023.com. We'll make sure to see you there, June 9th to the 11th. Come learn from some of the best traders, investors, and crypto enthusiasts. We'll see you guys there. All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Expert Trader podcast series. We have Steve Luke in the house today. We don't typically have guests from overseas, but I'm very excited to be talking to somebody from the UK scene. So, Steve, thanks for getting on the show.
No problem at all. Thank you so much for having me. It's nice to obviously be on here and also speak to your audience and yourself as well.
There we go. It's great to have you. And I know that you have a depth of experience from over the years of trading. So I'm excited to kind of dive into that and kind of get folks some info. But for folks who don't know who you are, you mind giving us a quick rundown?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Steve Luke. I'm the founder of the Forex Trading Academy, which has been running for about 2 years now. We have just under 1,000 members in there. I'm a day trader, and I trade with traders all across the world. And that's basically my full-time sort of income stream is from trading. And intraday trading every single day through the academy, and that's what I'm doing at the moment.
Well, there you go. How would you describe yourself as a trader? So you said intraday. What do you trade, and how would you describe yourself? Yeah,
so intraday. I mean, look, I've tried everything. I've tried swing trading. I've just tried normal retail trading. So at the moment, what I would do, I will typically, just to get an understanding, I look for, my strategy allows a setup a day. So I will only ever take one trade a day, and it's always only ever risking 1% to look to get 3% reward. And then basically my analysis is done on the 4-hour daily and weekly with entries on 1 minute, 5 minute and 15-minute time frame. I'm always looking to get that 3% and being quite strict and then getting out the market to bag those profits.
And when you say you trade daily, do you trade every single day of the trading week, or are you selective?
I used to not trade on Mondays, but again, Mondays was a big no-no for me. I just used to lose every single Monday. I don't know why. So it was in my plan to get rid of it. More so recently, I've started to introduce Mondays back into it. But again, if my setup's there, so I'm very strict with my criteria. If my criteria presents itself, then I'm like, right, that's the position that I'm taking. So I use the same kind of robotic actions over, let's say if I take 10 trades, I'll look at it and say, well, okay, probability wise, if I use my edge, then it should play out in my favor over those 10 trades. So if the entry criteria is there, I will take it. If it isn't, then I don't force it. I just sit on my hands and then I leave the markets and then come back the next day.
So, I mean, typically we kind of go in chronological order. Like I want to ask you about how you got into markets and things, but since we're already on the topic of trading, were you always this disciplined with your criteria? Is that something that you started off doing, or is that something that you developed over time?
No. I was very undisciplined. I mean, probably like most traders listening to this, I blew account after account after account. And I would load account with, I don't know, £100 and lose it. And then I go, right, load it with £200 and lose it. So my discipline wasn't there. And that was one thing that made me lose. I would say I probably found consistency around 3.5 years ago now. And so it was the discipline that made me win, saying, right, well, actually, if I've taken a position today and it's a loss, I'm now not going to keep chasing. If I want to short on GBP USD and it smashes through my area, before I would just then try and get in short higher up and think, oh, it's just going to wick everybody out. I'm going to go in there. And then I'd lose again. And then I go, right, I'll just try one more time and lose again. And that was my biggest downfall, was not having that discipline. So now for my own psychology, that has to be within my plan. One trade and that's it.
Now, how long did it take you to get to that point where not only did you discover that, hey, taking one trade is the way to go, but then actually being able to put that into practice?
I would say probably around 4 years. So I've been trading almost 7 years now. So the first 4 years were me just losing and trial and error and trying to figure out what worked for me. And then, it got to the point where I was that fed up of losing. And again, I'm sure we've all been there. I've been there wanting just to throw my laptop out the window. I've been there with my head in my hands thinking this is never, ever, ever going to work. And, tears, the full lot. But I say after 4 years, when I started implementing that was the kind of the game changer for me.
Okay. So what were the turning points when you first started trading and you were kind of going through that phase, the discovery phase that we like to call it? What do you feel like helped you get out of that phase? Was it just time and experience, or do you feel like it was a deliberate action that you did?
No, I wouldn't say it was a deliberate action. It was more experience in the markets. So when I first started trading, I did what everybody does. And, I'd go on YouTube, I'd see what everyone else was doing, and I'd try and implement that. And then that wouldn't work for me the first day. So I'd then try and jump to something else. I'd see another website that says do this or do that or do the other. And again, so trial and error for probably around 4 years. And then I got to the stage and thought, I'm trying to do what everybody else is saying works. So let me actually just sit back and figure out what works for me. What time am I getting to the charts in the morning? How long can I dedicate to the charts a day? And then I suppose the turning point for me was actually trying to find a continuous pattern of something that was happening over a period of time. And then once that continuous pattern ended up in me having more wins and obviously, forward testing, I'm a big promoter of back testing, but I hate doing it. Right. So for me, it was more live testing and just finding what worked for me more than trying to follow the crowd of everybody saying, do this, that, and the other.
First off, I appreciate you just being transparent and just being honest, because I feel like a lot of people are like, no, you have to backtest and you have to journal, and we all do. But no, we can't sit here and pretend like it's the most fun thing in the world. So I think that's amazing. Now, another thing that's very interesting is a lot of people want to have a discussion about trading being mostly psychological. And what I'm realizing is through my journey specifically, the more comfortable I got with looking for a specific pattern in the market, the psychology started to take a backseat. You don't need to be that disciplined or that enlightened once you know exactly what you're looking for. So how would you kind of put that split between technicals and psychology? And do you feel like once you discovered that pattern in the markets, that's what allowed you to really make progress?
Yeah, absolutely. So as an example today, I had two ideal setups. They both came in, both hit TP, but I only took one of the positions. So it was more, again, even though that I know there are a couple of potential positions there that I can take, I'm still going to be really strict, just taking that one trade. And actually, I find now as well with that, in terms of if I see something which, I do think is going to be a great setup. However, if I'm going to be in a bad mood or whatever's happened throughout the day, and I can't fully focus on it, then I kind of leave it alone. But I found that I could be a lot more, if I just say blasé about trading, but because I know that pattern is there and therefore that's my very robotic strict criteria. But in reality, if I started to slip back into that and thinking, actually, I don't need to be as strict with that psychology because, I could say, well, I now know what I'm doing on the charts. Eventually, I'm going to end up taking 2 trades a day, 3 trades a day, 4 trades a day. And then I need to sort of check my psychology again and bring myself back to somewhere where I'm being disciplined.
Oh, that's very well said. So it seems to me like, from my experience in trading and just sort of a lot of the individuals I've talked to, it seems like the psychological, like the tension that people feel is because they're unable to stop themselves from doing something. So it's like typically, like, let's say if you're a professional athlete, the discipline comes in from showing up to the gym, from actually doing those activities. Whereas in trading, it's from walking away. It's like not doing things, stopping yourself from reaching for that snack. So can you speak to that a little bit about what the biggest barriers are to psychology in trading?
Yeah, massive. So what I have to do now, obviously having the academy as well and having so many people in there, I do have to spend a lot longer on the charts than ordinarily I would do if I didn't have that, right? So when I first started learning to trade, I would always have my laptop open. I'd be sat there with my girlfriend. We'd be watching TV and I'd be looking to see what gold is doing or something else. I always had that chart there. And then I think it's a bad thing. You need it to learn to trade, to understand how price action is moving. But when you actually understand what price action is doing, I think the longer on the charts, the worse it is for you. Because you will always get that temptation. Even with me, when I'm being quite disciplined, I always have that temptation to go back in if I'm seeing like an A+ setup or whatever it may be. So what I try and do is that if I can take my position, either set a sell limit, a buy limit, make sure my stop loss and my TP are all set, then I'll just leave the house. Right? I'll put my phone down. I'll go for a walk. I'll go for I love cars, so I'll go for a drive. I'll drive half an hour away just to stay away from the charts. And then by that point, any kind of desire I had to jump in is probably gone, and I can just sit back. And if my trade hits TP, I'll get an alert saying you've hit TP. If it's hit my stop loss, then it's hit my stop loss. I'm like, right, fine, that happens. Come back tomorrow. So I'm a big believer of when you can and when you understand your edge, stepping away from the charts and just go out, have fun, go to the gym, go and get a hobby. That's the most important thing, because the longer you're going to sit on there, the more likely you are to jump back in and actually lose.
What do you think makes it so difficult to walk away? So eventually you got to a point where you realized walking away is what makes the money. So now you have these different mechanisms to kind of lean on. But why is it so hard to walk away?
Greed. Massively, I think it's greed. And as well, when we first start learning to trade, right, we're basically making money from the palm of our hands. So we've got your phone in your hand and you're making money from that, or from your computer, which, for me was the dream, which for me, that's why I wanted to get into trading, is to make money from wherever I am in the world. And I think when you start doing that, you get that dopamine, you're excited, you can see you're in profit, and you constantly want that good feeling of I'm making money. And I see it with a lot of people, and I saw it myself when I first started being profitable as well. I would go in again and again and again. And then after time, then when you're going in so much, you start losing. I think it is just that you want that fix. It's addictive. And actually, to be honest, I find now, if you are, for like me, one trade a day, it's quite boring.
Yeah.
It's very boring. And I don't necessarily get that rush anymore from it, because again, it's just a strict approach. And I think that's what's helped me again get that consistency.
I think that that's probably the biggest key, because a lot of the people that get into trading don't necessarily like structure. It's like entrepreneurially minded people don't necessarily like an organized schedule, or, some kind of bureaucracy at work or whatever it might be. And so as soon as you have to create those structures for yourself in trading, it tends to make things a little bit less exciting. And I think it draws people away. So do you think that trading would be a lot less popular if people understood what it actually took to be successful?
Oh, hugely. Yeah. And I think a lot of people give up too early. From what I've seen in my experience. Like, say, for me, it took me 4 years to get to a point where I just started being consistent and started getting those profits in. Like, I looked at it, so I'm basically a lawyer as well. So I trained and went to law school and did that. And that took me 7 years to actually get to a stage where I could actually qualify. So having that discipline, I already realized, well, look, whatever career I want to go in, whether it be law, whether, you obviously want to become a doctor or whatever, it takes time. And so I was willing to just keep failing and failing and failing every single day until I got to a point where I knew I can crack this. I've seen other people crack this. I know it's possible. If they can do it, then I can do it. So I think a lot of people just try, especially now with what's on social media and what's online. They just see, I've been trading for 6 weeks and I've made so much money. Like, forget that. What I tell a lot of people is, you're likely going to be trading for a good few years before you actually start seeing profitability. And I just think a lot of people see it as a get rich quick rather than learning a skill, which is going to take years and years.
On that topic, what do you think that social media is doing to traders? Like, specifically, what are some of the most dangerous things to watch out for? Because I'm on social media, and I have to admit there are some benefits. The inspirational aspect, the motivational aspect, but there's also a lot of things that might get you away from your discipline. So could you kind of describe that?
So when I first started trading, there was hardly anybody on social media that was trading. It was very, very difficult to find anybody that was actually doing it, maybe one or two people. And I like that. It was good. There was only a few sources of information out there. What I found is now that everybody is trying to do it. So for me, I have quite a big following on social media. However, as a result of that, there are probably 20, 30 fake accounts of me that will message all my followers trying to get them to, give me money and I'll trade it for you. And I think a lot of people can get caught up in that. And that's the downside. There are a lot of scams out there, and that everyone needs to be obviously, or just have your due diligence, contact the person and see if they're legit. I think everybody's trying to do it. But saying that, there are the benefits if you can find the right people. I mean, it's obviously, in terms of what you're doing as well with like the FX Summit coming up and surrounding yourself with the right traders, I think it can be extremely helpful, because on the flip side, as traders, we generally sit in a room, whether, you're younger and you're sitting in a bedroom trading. And it's very lonely. So if you can find other traders out there that have the same desire and same goal as you, it can be hugely beneficial whilst trying to navigate a lot of the scams that you see online.
Now, I think that there's a double-edged sword with trading with a community. Like, so for example, we run the Chart Addicts community, and sometimes you'll send out trades and people might be on the opposite side of your trade. And that might cause you to maybe second guess or whatever it might be. So can you talk about the pros and cons with trading around other people?
Yeah, certainly. So when I first started the academy, I didn't have a Discord or I didn't have a Telegram, because what I thought was that, again, I've been in so many in the past, and you see people doing something and you get influenced by them and try and jump in and you ruin your plan. So that's the negative side of it, in terms of you are going to FOMO, you're going to try and do what other people are doing, and necessarily you've already missed the entry. You don't know what they're risking. You know, some people don't obviously put all the information out there, so you're going in blind to try and copy what someone else is doing. So I think that's the negative side of it. After a while, a lot of people said, look, you know, we really do want this community. So I set it up. And so I can now see the positives of it, in terms of people will just chat and say, look, I had a loss today based on this. And other people can see, okay, yeah, I also lost based on this idea, and can just start sharing ideas and see that they're not alone. So I think just, again, talking to traders, realizing that every single person is going through the same problem, especially in the early days that you're going through. That's the positive side of it, as long as you can make sure that you're strong enough to not FOMO and try and copy what everybody else is trying to do.
I think the biggest takeaway I got from that is that transparency is key. It's because there's a lot of people that have an ego, and I think we've all been there, myself included, where you don't necessarily want to share some of your losing days, because sometimes the mistakes aren't an honest mistake. Sometimes you were over leveraging or over trading. But I think that it's important to realize that we are all kind of going through similar issues, and transparency kind of clears the air and it just makes it a lot more comfortable for people to make that progress. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%. So one thing that I do live calls every single morning at London Open. They're all live with me, with the traders. And what I do, I will share the previous day. If I've had any losses, if I've had any wins, I will share my entries. I'll share where my stop loss was, where my take profit was, and just do that every single day. And I think as well, that's shown a lot of traders that, all right, Steve had a loss today. Right, cool. Okay, I had a loss, so I'm absolutely fine. It happens. It's part of it. And we just move forward, because we can't be right all the time. And I think transparency is massively the key.
Very important. So give me some of the biggest lessons, not just from your own journey, but also you've had the privilege of being around so many other traders because of the community. Are you seeing any issues that are very prevalent in trading today? Is it expectations? Is it the same old greed and fear? What do you think are some of the most pervasive issues today?
So I think one of the things that I'm seeing, which is new to, well, obviously, which I think is new to trading, is we've always had prop firms, right? And obviously, I'm just going to touch on this because I think it's an important issue. We've always had prop firms, obviously, firms that are, you pass a challenge and it gives you an opportunity to trade a bigger amount of funds. And what I see at the moment is, again, when I spoke about traders just want to see success in a matter of weeks or a matter of months, what they will do is maybe they'll have one successful week and therefore then go and buy a challenge to try and get this prop firm money. And actually, you haven't got enough data. You might have just had just one good week, and you could have the next three losing weeks. And I see people, throw $1,000 and lose, another $1,000 and lose, another $1,000 and lose, when actually what you want to be doing is spending that time actually on improving your education, improving yourself. So I see a lot of people trying to get to the finish line straight away. Whereas with me, when I first did prop firms, I'd lose a challenge and then I'd take like a month off, like come back to it, go, right, what happened? And then get to the next stage, like verification. Then I'd blow the verification and then come back to like, right, what happened? Because I think they massively affect your psychology. So that's the biggest thing I'm seeing at the moment. And there are so many more prop firms popping up as well now, left, right, and center. I think everyone just needs to maybe take a little bit of a step back and don't be too hungry to get to that point straight away, because when you do get there and you're consistent, then that's when you're going to reap the rewards from it, not within the first couple of weeks or couple of months of trading.
Excellent. So focusing really more on the process and strategy and the system rather than focusing on the outcome.
Yeah. So the money will come. I always say this. If you concentrate on being disciplined and strict with your strategy, then the results will show and the money is a byproduct. Whereas a lot of people say, I want the money first and over leverage or whatever it may be. and then their strategy or how disciplined they are goes out the window.
I mean, on this topic of pressures that people put on themselves, or maybe external pressures that are impacting trading, can you talk about some of the pressures that you faced while you were trying to get your trading together? Maybe some expectations that you had put on yourself that might have been impacting your results?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, I loaded, I think I touched on it initially. I loaded the account with, £100, £200 or whatever, and then loaded it with, 1,000 and so on, trying to get money back that I'd previously lost, and was chasing the money that I'd already lost in the market, which initially gave me a negative sort of psychology aspect to it, because I was constantly chasing, I was revenge trading. Which is obviously a massive thing that everybody does that makes you lose in the markets. So I think that was the issue at first. And again, I was concentrating more on the money. So everything I speak about is what I've done in the past, and constantly chasing the money side of it as well. And I suppose when you talk about trading, if I speak to family, I kept it quiet from family for a long time. The only person I told was my girlfriend, because she was interested in it as well, which actually allowed me to then be like, right, you know what, this is what I want to do. And she was fully supportive. Whereas friends, family, everybody else just said, it's a get rich quick scheme. You're stupid for doing it, and you're going to lose all your money, and you will never make a success of it. And I got that from absolutely everybody that I told. And, now I am doing all right. They're the people that are coming to me to say, can you help me? I want to get into trading. But that was a big psychological thing for me, was having to do all that and dedicating all that time whilst having the pressure of people saying, you're never going to make it, basically.
Now, there's a long jump from going from that, where you have the pressures of the people around you and the ego trying to make sure that you're successful, to now having a community where there's different sides of pressure. You and I both run communities. Could you talk a little bit about the pressures of being responsible, not just for your own results, but for the results of others as well?
Oh, yeah. It's something, obviously, since I started the community, and the academy, it's something completely new that I hadn't experienced in terms of the pressure side of that. Because I was doing really well with my own results. And, now I've got this community that are kind of looking at me to say, right, what are we doing? How are we trading? And so again, the very robotic approach that I've got, I realized that it worked with others, because, when I was being successful, friends and family then came back to me and said, can you help me? And I'd show them, and then they would be consistent. So I knew that it was something that, as long as you were very strict with it, it would work. And I suppose doing these live morning calls was a way for me to be fully transparent with everybody in the community and saying, look, we're not always going to have a win every single day. Or every couple of days. The way I look at it is this, and again, I'm fully open with that. I will say, right, I'll take 10 trades. And if I'm looking to get 1 to 3 per trade, so I'm risking 1% to get 3% back, I could potentially only win 3 out of 10 trades. But at 1 to 3 risk reward ratio, I'd still be profitable, because I'd get 9% out of those 3 trades that I've won. If I lose the next 7, I'm still 2% up. And this is what I try and say to everybody. Look, if I'm having a loss, if I have 3 losses in a row, I just stop trading for that week. And that's me done. And again, fully transparent with the community. So they also know that, they come to me and say, I've had a couple of losses. What should I do? And I'm like, just stop trading. Why do you need to trade again? You've had a few losses. The only reason you're having losses is because the market is not moving in the way that we need it to move for our edge to play out. Therefore, step away, come back next week, and then we start again. You only need a couple of trades in to then get profitable again, get back into obviously or back into the green. And yeah, that's how it's been working really. So I just find, for me, it keeps me in check with full transparency, being fully transparent with absolutely everyone in the academy.
That's amazing. And I think it's like, for a lot of folks, you can intellectually tell someone, you're not going to win every day, and you have to accept losses, and they might be able to intellectualize it, but until they experience it, it's going to be hard for them to really make sense of that information. So when they get to trade with someone like us, and they get to see that, we showed up all 5 days, but we only traded 2 of the days. There are days where we're going to spend an hour and a half and not take any trades. And once they start to get through that hurdle and they have someone kind of walk them through that bridge, I think it makes things a lot easier, just to be able to kind of really see it.
I mean, one thing that that I just wanted to say as well that I have found from it is that obviously wins are all good, right? You have wins, you have break evens, but one thing that I've found trading with everybody is massively important is also just reducing those losses. So, you know, if we're on a call for London Open and a trader would say, I would ordinarily be in a position, and I'll be saying, actually, no, we need to sit back and wait. We need to wait for price to come to us for a certain area. It's already prevented them having a loss for that day. It's giving them that patience. And so I think that's really important. You know, even if you reduce your losses for a week, it can massively increase your results over a month or over a quarter.
It's like a personal trainer. It's like you keep telling yourself that you can only do 10, and then you're with the personal trainer, and now you're at 14 and 15, and you're like, wow, I had no idea that this was the limit that I could have really pushed myself to. Now, you did mention something that I'm interested in. You mentioned family trading. First, do you think trading is for everyone? Can anyone become a trader? A successful trader, sorry.
Yeah, okay. It's a difficult question. I think if you've got to be a certain type of person. I would say to someone, you know, if you have that gambling mindset, then it's probably not going to be for you. You've got to be at a level where you can actually be quite calm and you can, make calm decisions, read the markets and execute when you need to execute. If you're hesitating, you're probably going to lose. Like say, if you want to chase price action, you're going to lose as well. So I think it takes a very disciplined and calm person to become a trader. I believe that over time, anybody can become a trader, but it's going to take people. So if you have got a gambling mindset, it might take you a few years longer than somebody else who's a lot calmer for you to actually get rid of those bad habits to then start seeing consistency.
So if I was one of your kids and I asked you, if I want to be a successful trader in the future, what qualities should I focus on building over the next however many years? What would those qualities be?
Oh, okay. So I think you need to be, like I said, very, very disciplined. That's the biggest thing for me that made me successful, was being disciplined and not FOMOing into the markets. You've got to be able to keep your emotions under control. You can't be too over the top. You can't be too excited. I mean, I think, again, being a trader, we learn a lot about ourselves and we change the way that we are to be successful in the markets. Because if I was jumping up and down every single time I got a winning trade, I'd probably be entering the markets, you know, left, right, and center, trying to get that excitement. So discipline, being calm, controlling emotions, and also being able to forget the numbers on the screen and not want to chase money. Falling in love with the process and the strategy of actually trading, rather than seeing those numbers on your screen. Because as you start to get or trade higher and higher and higher funds, those losses become huge, which a lot of people don't understand. Because again, you know, you could have a loss which is someone's monthly salary in your family, and they just think you're crazy and you're stupid. Whereas we know, if we've got a system and you've got to that point already because you're being successful, then actually the wins are going to carry you through. So not being greedy, being calm, being disciplined, and having control of your emotions.
Oh, that's amazing. So emotional maturity and discipline seem to be like the theme of this conversation, which is you can't get too high when you're winning. You can't get too low when you're losing. You have to be system focused and process focused, because that's how you get the results. And so I think that's really good. There's a segment that we typically do, which is kind of like a fire round, where I kind of just want to ask you about different topics that people tend to be on two different camps. You know, I'll go through those one-on-one. So what do you think about stop losses?
Absolutely need to have a stop loss. 100%. You can't not have a stop loss, in my opinion. If you are, then I think you're just opening yourself up to so many losses. The stop loss has to be there for me for a reason, because I know if it hits my stop loss, my entire analysis was wrong and price isn't going to go in the direction that I analyzed that it would do.
Oh, very important. So you said your stop loss is based on an area where if it hits, then that trade is completely invalid.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Always.
What do you think about prop firms? I know we spoke about them a little bit, but overall take.
Yeah, so I think they're good when you have got consistency, because it opens you up to trading huge capital when ordinarily you wouldn't have access to it. Like, again, as long as you can control your emotions with what comes with trading with that money and seeing those numbers on your screen. The downside is too many people trying to get into them and rushing to get into them too early and spending thousands of pounds actually on failed challenges. And, you know, if you are new to trading and you happen to pass the challenge and verification straight away, you're more than likely to blow your account when you first get it, because I don't think you'd be ready at that point. So once you've got a good track record, then I think they're a good tool that you can utilize, but I don't think it should be a tool you utilize for life. It should be to get the money out, create your own trading accounts using those profits, and then you're self-sufficient moving forward.
Is trading a prop firm any more difficult than trading a live account? Or do you feel like it's because of the time constraint, or is it just the same pressure?
I don't think it's any more difficult. A lot of people say, if you get $100,000 prop firm account, well, it's only like trading a 10,000, because obviously if you lose that 10,000, then you blow the account. But for me, I think it teaches discipline, because you have very, very strict rules where you can't go down obviously more than 5% drawdown in a day. Again, with my strategy, it's like, well, that should never happen, because it's only ever 1% one trade. So if you do that, then you're not sticking to the plan. And again, I recommend, in terms of if you're doing a prop firm, you start with 0.5% risk, build up a bit of a buffer. And then once you've got 3-4% in your account as a buffer, then you can start trading 1%, because I think the more that you start to go down into negative, that's when the psychology and the negative psychology comes in, and people are likely to try and over leverage to get back.
Okay, good stuff. And I appreciate you kind of playing devil's advocate there too, which is like, there is a benefit to the prop firms, which is it kind of forces traders to be disciplined. Whereas if you don't have any sort of structure, you can end up blowing the account or over trading. So
yeah.
Very important. Now, what do you think about risk management? Now, I know that you just mentioned 1%, one trade, and if you're starting off and you're new, maybe reducing your risk. But what's your overall take on risk management for trading?
Again, I think risk management, as well as with the discipline, can make you profitable. Because, like I was saying, with those 10 trades, if I'm always doing 1 to 3, then I know that if I lose 7 trades out of 10, I'm still going to be profitable. And I shouldn't be at that where I'm losing that many trades, but it does happen to all of us. We can all have bad months. So I think risk management is very important, because if you're risking, let's say, 1% on one trade and you lose, and you win, you get 1 to 3, then the next trade, then you go, right, I'm going to now risk 3%. Then if you lose, you're back down at 0. So I think you need to keep that risk the same, no matter what you're doing. If you want to let it run for a lot longer, then absolutely fine. If you want to let it run 4-5% and move your stop loss to break even, which I'm a big fan of, then that's absolutely okay as well. I just think you need to have a plan in your mind, what you're happy with. Because one thing that I find from traders, they will say to me, I don't know where my TP is. Right? They will go, who's new to the academy, where am I taking my TP? This thing looks like it might fall out of the sky. And you see people online going, I get 1 to 43, 1 to 45, whatever. I think if you have a strict TP, it removes that stress. You're like 3% done, I'm out of the market. I couldn't care less what it does next, because I've got my profit.
I think that's one of the most underrated things. And I appreciate you bringing it up. It's like everybody focuses on finding the right entry, but the people that make the money are the ones that know when to get out. Because if you're overstaying, you're welcome in the markets, it's going to reverse on you. Or, every once in a while you might have a home run, but chances are it'll hit your 1 to 3, 1 to 4, and then end up coming back down. So
it used to happen to me so much. That's where I got it from, because it would hit 3%, and I'd be thinking, this thing's going to melt, and then it would come back, and it would come back to my break-even point, and then I would move my stop loss from break-even back to where my stop loss was originally, and I'd go from being 3% up to losing 1% down.
You're so far ahead of the game. You already mentioned the next 3 questions.
Okay, sorry. All right. No, you're good. It's good.
But it's basically the concept of taking partial profits and then moving your stop loss to break even. Yeah. Now, I know people tend to batch both of them together, but they're very completely different strategies. What do you think about both of those?
So in terms of taking off partials, what I will do, if I do have a longer target, so let's say I'm trading on I get an entry on the 1 minute time frame, right? And however, on the daily, I can see the price can drop a hell of a lot further than I'm expecting it to, or where my 1 to 3 would be. So what I would do, if I do think that price is going to fall and there is potential for a better trade, I will move my stop loss to break even, and then I'll take off 75% of my position at 3%. And then I'll just leave it. Again, I'll then walk away from my computer. That's it. The only thing I will do is I'll set an alert back at my break even point. And then leave it and walk away. So if I'm out and about and it goes off, I'm like, cool, I'm out break even. I got 75% of my ideal 3%. I took that risk, but I've not lost anything today. I'm still up. And I know if that alert doesn't go off, then I'm still going to be sitting in good profit. And then I'll come back later on and I'll close it out before the end of the day.
And that 30%, every once in a while, that 30% will really run. And you might be able to double the profits on the trade, or even sometimes triple the profits on the trade.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about automated trading versus manual?
I would like the idea of automated trading. It would be nice. I've often thought about this. If there was a way that I could create what I do to have it obviously be done by a bot, I think that would be really nice. But I haven't seen automated trading actually produce good results. There may be out there, but no one's shown it me. Every single one that I've seen may be okay for like a week or so, and then after that, it just hasn't produced the same results, to be fair. So I like the idea of it. It's just not something that I've experienced to be profitable yet.
So good in theory, but in practice, it needs some work. I think it's one of those things where if you were to program your strategy, it does take a long time to optimize the EA. And so you're going to have to see your strategy work in different market cycles, and you're going to have to go in there and, periodically adjust it as needed.
Absolutely. It's like the same when I say, if I lose 3 trades in a row, I'll stop trading, whereas the bot would probably just keep going. I mean, obviously, I know you could stop it, but it would just keep going. And then, if the market conditions aren't there, then it could result in more losses.
Okay, there we go. So I have one last question, which is, I know you can't make it to the summit this year, but if you were on stage and you were to leave the crowd with 1 or 2 pieces of insights that you've learned, what would those 2 things be?
I think the insight would be is, again, just make sure that you get the right education and work on yourself. Don't follow, everybody's strategy that's out there. You've got to decide, and there are different strategies that work, and you've got to decide what works for you based on the time that you're coming to the charts, based on what type of trades you want to take, whether you want to be a swing trader, whether you want to be in and out the markets and obviously done for the day. And then also, I think you've got to have a goal. You've got to have an end game in terms of where you want to be with trading. So like I said, with greed, if you say, I'm happy with so much % a week, figure out what that is and then stick to it. Treat it like a business in terms of you've made so much profit. Therefore, why are you now going to give money back to the market? Why are you going to waste money? Just make sure that you have that disciplined plan there in terms of this is what you want to make from it. This is the reason that you got into trading, and then take your profits and run. And then again, we can come back the next week or the next month, whatever that goal may be, and then start the process again.
Steve, this has been an absolute blast. Everything that you've talked about is something that we 100% support. It's discipline, emotional maturity, having a very clear goal, being more process-centric rather than outcome-obsessed. And so I really appreciate you stopping by. Where can folks find you online?
So you can go to my website, which is www.steveluke.co.uk, or you can get me through my Instagram, which is @steluke, which is STELUKE, and you can get me there. All the information is on my website or my IG.
Steve Luke, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for stopping by.
Thank you very much. Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, everybody, we just saw some incredible traders here at the FIP compound. Make sure that you guys grab your tickets to the FX Summit 2023 conference if you want to meet all these incredible traders, if you want to meet myself and learn from the best. So we'll see you guys, fxsummit2023.com.